You guys know I love messy straight people drama. Let's do this. There's a movement that originated in South Korea called the 4B movement, which stands for no dating men, no marrying men, no sleeping with men, and no having men's children. Sounds like a good time to me. Where do I sign up? This movement initially began as a response to the specific anti-woman climate and policies of South Korea, including digital sex crimes, domestic homicide, lack of parental rights, and the gender wage gap, which is twice as extensive in Korea as it is in the US, and the most extreme of any developed economy. Add to this existing climate the election of a far-right government and the threatened abolition of an already ineffectual Bureau of Gender Equity, and you've got a recipe for women to want to do something drastic, like opt out of love, romance, and family for the sake of self-preservation. This is a pretty radical thing to do, and it garnered a lot of attention, especially as it coincides with the further lowering of already extremely low birth rates in South Korea, the lowest in the world. Critics want these yappy women to stop making spectacles of themselves and fall in line to save the population. But this isn't happening. While it's hard to say exactly how many women are in the 4B movement, the 5,000 to 50,000 women participating are probably not the cause of the declining birth rates in a country of 52 million people. More likely, these are both results of the same society-wide problems. I first got interested in the 4B movement as an offshoot of my long-standing interest in the lesbian feminist movement of the 1970s. Despite the name, these are not feminists who are lesbians. This is instead more in line with the idea that if feminism is the theory, then lesbianism is the practice. Basically, if you want to be free from men and equal to men, stop putting all your time, effort, and money towards making their lives better and easier. This movement argued, essentially, that counter to what mainstream feminists would have you think, the most feminist thing you can do is center other women in your life. Partnering with men always benefits men more than it benefits women. What would happen if women put their energy and attention towards supporting each other? This is a worthy question, and luckily for us, they tried really hard to get their feminist enclaves off the ground. Some lasted a little while, but ultimately they were unsustainable and fell apart, so it's hard to know what the long-term outcomes of one of these radical feminist group homes would have been. All we know now is that this kind of group community is hard to manage. Despite these valiant efforts, heterosexual marriage remains the default social and economic unit in our society. This brings me to American adoption of the 4B movement. Searches for and posts about the 4B movement in the US spiked after the election of Donald Trump in 2024 as a response to the extremely reactionary politics he stands for and policies that make up his platform. Women dumped their boyfriends and divorced their husbands over this election. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Sure, I'd seen women dump jerks before. I'd even seen couples split because they differed politically. But this sweeping movement of anger and self-righteousness was something I'd never seen, and I grabbed popcorn to watch it all unfold. After all, I live a man-free life. I've never really dated guys, and I'm married to a woman. Yet, as quickly as it began, it all quieted down again. While I was researching this topic, I found that the vast majority of articles written about it were written in November of 2024, and we haven't gotten much of an update since then, leaving me with my pet theories about the movement and why American women who so quickly and vehemently swore off men aren't sticking to it. To be clear, I totally saw this coming. I waited to say anything because I wanted to wait for things to die down so that I could make a retrospective, but even as these women were all swearing off men, I knew it wouldn't last. It has nothing to do with historical precedent or individual willingness to stick to their guns, but with the fact that this movement doesn't have any structure, support for its member, or even goals to achieve through political action. In fact, this was one of the first things I researched when I started looking into the 4B movement. what has it achieved? In South Korea, it's empowered women to live for health and friends instead of for beauty and family. Some say it's lowering the birth rate further, but that's largely unsubstantiated. In the US, lots of women already live for health and friends. It would never make the headlines if 5,000 or even 50,000 women did that, because they already do. In the US, if this was going to be a movement, it has to be for something beyond the simple ability to live an unmarried, child-free life. Another reason I speculated that this movement would be doomed to peter out, if not fail completely, is the complete lack of safety nets provided by the movement. In Korea, the movement is largely online and anonymous. They don't know who the others are. There's no headquarters or leadership or admin team. There's no way to network mutual aid or any kind of support. While the 4B movement touts independence as one of its core virtues, I'm not convinced that independence is always the goal. I've never been independent in my life, not really. I mean, I could survive on my own if I needed to, but I don't need to. I've always been interdependent with my network. If you give up family as your main source of interdependence and don't replace it with any other kind of community, you're not setting yourself up as empowered, but as vulnerable. I'm reminded by the feminist movements of the 1920s, which saw a lot of women strive for independence only to lose the safety that comes with family. This lack of safety net actually led a lot of them to becoming radicalized by the right-wing groups in the 30s and 40s, because they at least promised women a valued position in their society. Basically, if you're going to get people on board with leaving their old safety nets, you'd better have something for them when they need help, and 4B just doesn't have that kind of infrastructure in place and seemingly doesn't want to have any of that. It's a leaderless movement, after all, offering anonymous online validation and very little else. The thing is, I'm not even sure that this kind of mutual aid system between women would ever work. It sounds great on paper, don't get me wrong, but here's the problem. I love my wife a great deal, and it's hard for me to imagine wanting to invest my time, effort, and money in a political advocacy group rather than in our future together. I want to cook for her, do her laundry, take trips with her, plan our wedding, decorate our home, because I love her. I have to imagine that straight women feel as much love as I do, and that the efforts they put into making their man's life better are expressions of that love rather than some coordinated effort to systematically privilege men. If a straight woman operated in one of those mutual aid networks, or even in a feminist group home, and then one day fell in love, I'd have to imagine she'd eventually withdraw, not because she's trying to hinder the movement, but because she wants to build a family with the man she loves and wants to put her energy and resources towards that goal. Now, this is one of the biggest differences between the 4B movement in America as compared to Korea. American women want to have their feminisms and eat their boyfriends too. While some American women are scorched earth on men, there are a lot more who are just getting pickier about whom they date. On a personal level, I think that's a lot more powerful than cutting off your boyfriend to participate in principle in what's ultimately a deeply personal movement that isn't associated with any political gains for women or anyone else for that matter. If the people in your life fill your cup, keep them around. If they don't, reconsider them. This is a relatively casual thing for me as an American to say, which means that we don't need the 4B movement. We've already outgrown it. We can go our own way, or choose not to. The fact that we can choose freedom makes marriage a real option, not a necessity for survival, and we can do it without strings attached if we do. One of the major critiques of the 4B movement, as opposed to more incremental traditional feminism, is that 4B offers no solutions for women who need support from the system. Women who have jobs and would like the 31% missing from their paychecks need systemic feminism. Women who have a child and need parental leave and job security need systemic feminism. Women who want to stay healthy and need doctors to understand how their bodies work need systemic feminism. Saying patriarchy isn't for me and opting out of men in marriage can get you pretty far in terms of not spending your life as someone's servant if you don't want to be one, reclaiming your priorities, joy, energy, time, and hobbies. But it can't get you better trained doctors or any kind of security and stability. This movement, as radical and powerful as it is in some ways, is also a dead end. If you're going to do 4B, do it to swear off men, not as a bargaining chip or ultimatum. There will always be another woman to clean his skid marks, and she'll do it lovingly. I'll go so far as to posit that's a good thing, because if you think that's gross, you wouldn't want to marry that guy anyway, right? We live in a big wide world, and that means there are literally all kinds of people out there. Just because I want to be treated one way and want to show my love in another way doesn't mean that someone else doesn't want to receive love in yet another way and show their love in more ways still. So many people are going to be incompatible for any number of reasons, and the trick to dating is that you only need one. Unless you're poly, in which case you do. My point is, though, that you don't have to be a good match for a lot of people, you just have to be a good match for your match. That isn't to say that showering regularly and finding hobbies won't help. Of course it'll help, but rather that you don't have to change anything too fundamental about yourself in the pursuit of love. And in fact, it's best that you're honest about what you want so that you can actually find each other. My wife and I are both homebodies who like the occasional trip to another state or country. Neither of us would be a good partner for someone who likes to travel much more or less than that. I'd find that either exhausting or boring, and so would she. It doesn't make it a bad way to live, just that it's not for us. And I'd say the same about any other relationship dynamic. If both parties consent to it, then it's the right way for them to live. Now, I do hear a lot of complaints from women about how they're treated, and so I think they're maybe not in the best match for what they want, but as long as a dynamic is mutually agreed upon, then I think it's fine and good, you know? Now, there are a lot of discussions on population statistics, some true and some only true in the minds of the beholders. For example, incels believe in hypergamy, the idea that 80% of women are attracted to only 20% of men. That is, of course, why our society allows for a man to marry up to 4 women. Oh, wait, no, we don't have that. We have a monogamous model where more than 20% of men find a partner. One can find more grounded statistics in Datanomics, which goes over how some cities like New York and Atlanta see disproportionate numbers of women looking to marry versus men looking to marry, and how that influences behavior on the marriage market. However, that's somewhat beyond the scope of this video. I can do another video on that in the future if anyone wants that. The idea I want to leave you with is that while you should date and marry someone who treats you the way you want to be treated and lives the life you want to share, you should also probably decouple your politics from your personal relationships. Breaking up with your boyfriend on principle won't change the abortion rights in your states. Swearing men off won't keep him from getting another girlfriend. If boy sobriety is what you need right now, go for it. It's not praxis, but you should go for it. What I recommend is that you find someone you're compatible with, if you want one, and then pursue your politics as a more or less distinct pursuit. Now, I know that the 4B movement is something of a hot topic that stirred up a lot of feelings in a lot of people, so please do leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very curious to see what you all think, especially if you think differently from me. All right, I'll see you in the next one.